Hey there, and welcome back to Retire Your Way with ILG Financial. My name is Chase Lopez. This is Dave Lopez.
Welcome.
And we are both investment advisor representatives with ILG Financial. And today we're going to talk about a risk that, based on this article that we read, a lot of folks maybe aren't calibrating correctly when they're thinking about the risks in their retirement.
Yeah, not just the article we read. We see this every day when people come in.
Absolutely.
And we've talked to our clients, and you all may have heard this over and over again, of this idea of making financial decisions based on fact and data instead of just misconceptions or misinformation.
Right.
Wow, with this article, Chase, I can't think of a better example of that.
Absolutely.
What they talk about in this article, they're talking about risks in retirement and rating them and what may be the biggest risk and what people think may be the biggest risk. And in the article, and the study was done by Wheeling Howe, and we'll talk a little bit about the article in a moment, but what he said is most folks completely get the order of the risk wrong as far as which is the most severe to which is the less. Now the reason that's so important is if you're making decisions and you have an inaccurate feeling for how much risk.
If you're not prioritizing the right risks, right?
Yeah, then you're putting yourself at risk. You're
Right.
maybe limiting your returns. So here's what the article kind of talks about, and we've seen it for years. Most folks, if you ask them what's their biggest risk in retirement, often the number one thing we hear is
Market risk.
right,
Right? The markets.
volatility.
Yeah.
Boy, especially in 2022 with the market going down. But the study says, interestingly enough, not only is that not the biggest risk, they said with market volatility, most folks overestimate the damage the market can do over their retirement,
Right.
and they overestimate the good it can do.
Right.
So they are exaggerating the benefit and they're exaggerating the loss, and probably neither extreme is going to happen. It goes on to say that's not even their biggest risk in retirement. The biggest risk in retirement, interestingly, is what's known as longevity risk, and that's the risk of you outliving your money. And in the study, Chase, what he talks about is people are thinking that if you ask most folks how long they think they're going to live, what do most folks say?
Well, my parents lived till 90, so maybe 91,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
they base it off their parents,
Yeah,
right?
and if you did that, you're not alone. Most
Right.
folks assume they're going to live as long as their parents.
Right.
But the data says otherwise. It
Right.
says your longevity, only about 7% is tied to genetics, which means 93% of the factors that affect how long you're going to live have nothing to do with how long your parents lived.
Right.
Now, we're not even going to add into that even if it was genetically, what if it's genetically that something that 20 years ago would have killed your parents, but now, because of medical advancements, we can extend it moving forward?
Boy, and we've certainly seen that over the past 20 years or so. What could have killed you in the early 2000s or the 90s? Now, to your point, it's a doctor's appointment and you'll probably be okay.
Yeah, so the point of the article is they're saying people are underestimating, in a
Right.
bad way, longevity risk.
Right.
This is probably your chief risk, outliving your money, and they
Right.
say it's a double-edged sword, right? And what we mean by a double-edged sword is, the good news is, isn't it our goal to live a long, full, ideally healthy life and die at a ripe old age? That's the goal. So longevity risk means you achieved that wish. You lived a long, healthy,
Right.
you lived into your 90s or maybe even in your 100s. The other side of that sword, the double edge of that sword, is that it's going to put an incredible strain on your retirement savings, because you're going to be needing money longer. Inflation will hit you longer. Right, and you will be susceptible to sequence of return risk, which we've talked about in several videos, right? You can link to those if you want, or link to our podcast on sequence of return risk. That'll affect you for longer periods of time, which increases dramatically your risk of running out of money. The study showed, what was the hierarchy, Chase? Do you remember?
Yeah, so the study showed that most folks, their hierarchy as far as priorities for risks in retirement was the market risk, longevity risk, and then health risk. Now, what the study ended up finding was longevity risk is actually the number one risk, followed by health risk. So think, possibly needing long-term care.
And medical bills that
Medical
aren't
bills.
covered by health insurance.
Exactly, and we have done a couple of podcasts and videos on that topic specifically. And then third and final is actually market risk. And really, it was very interesting to read this study that they had put out. It just kind of illustrates the bigger point that we've made in a lot of our videos here, is that you need a plan, right? When we're entering retirement and you have a thing like longevity risk staring you right in the face, for lack of a better term, you need to build out a plan that accounts for this risk. And a great example is they were talking about Social Security, when to take Social Security, right? And if we end up living longer, it might be more advantageous to wait to turn on Social Security. If you wait from age 67 to age 70, your Social Security check's actually going to go up by about 24%. The study goes on to say that this is the best inflation-adjusted annuity around. But private sector annuities can also help ensure that you won't outlive your money as well.
Yeah, so what we're saying here is, this is just one example of longevity risk. If we're betting on longevity, right?
Which we should.
Which we should, according to this article. Social Security, which almost everybody gets, not everybody, but almost everybody, by waiting from 67, which this is for people born 1960 and later, 67 to 70, you increase your Social Security check by about 24%. It's actually much bigger than that, because when you factor in cost of living adjustments, over time it's a much bigger payout. Where a lot of people either turn it on at 67, or some even turn it on at 62. Right. And if you turn it on at 62, it's what, 30%, Chase?
Yep, 30%.
30% lower than your 67 rate. And it doesn't hurt you if you die young.
Right.
But if you have longevity, it can be devastating, the amount of money you could lose that you will need in retirement. That's just one example. Then the article went on, you were talking about private sector annuities.
Correct, yep.
Which is either a private pension, is technically an annuity.
Correct.
Or if you aren't lucky enough to have a pension through work or something, you could generate an income stream using regular annuities. And they can have inflation adjustments, but even if they don't, you can use those as your inflation adjustment, right? To help with extra income above what you would need from Social Security or your pension or something. But the takeaway is you need to plan for longevity risk first.
Correct.
Get that taken care of. Assume you're going to live to 100 or 103 and make sure we can make this money last.
Right.
Next, we want to take into account health risks.
Right.
Healthcare costs, assisted living costs. Make sure that extra burden is covered if you seem to need it. And then third, we want to talk about how market risks fits in there. When we build plans for our clients, interestingly, this is exactly how we go about building the plan. Income first, lifetime income, survivor income, inflation-adjusted income, and then next is healthcare costs. Right. And then what's not affected by that, we talk about market risk, so that we're avoiding the market being a part of that.
Yeah. So if you like the video today and you want to see our future videos, just go ahead and hit like or hit the bell right there, there at the bottom, and we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.